to data, basically. So that's what a data scientist do, or who a data scientist is. I know this might not sink in properly, but I'll be walking you through a cycle. It's called a data science life cycle. This data science life cycle basically is the step-by-step process in which a data scientist take on a day-to-day basis in order for he or she to be able to solve problems, or in order for he or she to be able to implement, working with the data, basically. So what is this data lifecycle? What does it entail? How do we know the step-by-step processes within the data science lifecycle? Understanding the data science lifecycle will make you further know the difference between a data analyst and a data scientist. It will further open our eyes to, what exactly a data scientist do better than a data analyst. And it will also show you the similarities between what a data scientist do and what a data analyst do. Right? But before we go on to the data science lifecycle, the question basically is, we also need to understand or know why we are doing data science, basically, right? What are the applications, or what are the interesting things within, what are the interesting things within the data science lifecycle, that makes its application very unique in the modern world. So moving forward, I would like to walk us through data science lifecycle, basically. So in data science lifecycle, just like I mentioned earlier, has different step-by-step processes on how data science problems are being implemented, basically. So one of the very first step in the data science lifecycle is the problem definition, or sometimes being referred to as the problem understanding. So what does the problem definition means, or what does the problem understanding means, right? Let me quickly share my screen so that we'll do this a little bit visually so you can understand as we move forward. I guess we can all see my screen now. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Let me see another version.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's make use of a Jamboard. So yeah, so we'll be going through data science lifecycle. So what are these data science lifecycle, right? So first off, we have what we call the problem understanding. Basically, so this is what we call the problem understanding. So what is this problem understanding? What does it entail? What do you do when you're exercising problem understanding? Do you just sit down with a problem and try to understand it? Well, yes. Or do you just sit down and start reading some bunch of papers to understand what the problem is all about? Well, sometimes, what exactly is problem understanding? So before we get to what problem understanding is, We also need to understand why we are solving a problem. Why are we solving a problem basically? Why are you solving a problem basically? There are different reasons as to why we are solving a problem basically. Just like we all know in the modern world today, we have different processes and different services, that are being optimized using technology, right? Take for example, in the traditional days, right, we had different things that we do that were majorly manual and didn't have to do with any sort of technology attached to it, you know. So at that time, these services or these processes, took a lot of human resource, right? It took a lot of time to achieve, it took a lot of Can you guys hear me now? Hmm. Oh, sorry about that. I had network issue. All right, so let me share my screen once again. So uh, I guess we can all see my screen now. Okay. All right. So just like I said, traditionally in the olden days, a company would tend to hire up to 50 customer care service representative, right? So that they'll be able to attend to the needs of their customers, right? Which is quite necessary. But this recruitment of up to 50 customer care representative was actually in a way weighing the company down, right? But the company didn't have a choice at the time because they needed to, attend to their customers, right? So that's why they needed to hire up to 50 customer care representative. But have you ever sat down to thought about what this was doing to the company's pocket? Well, if the company was to make 100 million naira in a year, right, for example, but within that 100 million naira, they'll be considering things like, you know, 50 customer care representative, right? You have to pay them salaries, right? Very important. You have to give them allowances, right? You have to give them a wish, right? What else do you need to give them, right? So you hiring 50 people, you have to provide resources for them, right? You have to provide resources for them basically, right? The telephones they are going to be using, the network service they are going to be using, the data, the all of those things, right? Then as well is going to be, taking up a lot of human resource, right? Those 50 individuals, they are all humans, right? So you'd have to be dealing with a lot of humans, right? And all of those. Sometimes you'd have to lay off some customer care representatives. Sometimes you have to recruit new ones. All of those stuffs, right? That is what the company was facing. But at the end of the day, if the company checks their balance at the end of the year, they will see that this 100 million that they're supposed to make, they might not be making exactly 100 million naira. They might be making maybe 100 million minus when you remove all of the salary, right? You remove their salary, you remove the allowances, you remove the resources, you remove logistic and all of those. You see that maybe the money will be remaining, for example, let's say the money will remain 60 million naira, right? For example. So you can see that the company is actually spending a lot of money for this customer care representative. 40,000, 40 million naira is going to, um, you know, taking care of all of these 50 people, right? But in recent days, we've seen how technology has been able to help a company cut down costs and also save the company from using a lot of human resource. How? We've seen these days that in some um, e-commerce businesses, right? We've seen that customer cares are now robots, right? We now have bots that are acting as customer cares, right? You can talk to a bot, right? You can tell your bot to shop for you on this site, right? You can tell your bot, you can lay your complaint to your bot, and your bot will respond you with the necessary answer you want, and all of those, right? You know, then your bot can also work, faster than these 50 people, right? Your bot can work 24/7, right, without getting tired. But these 50 people that you hired before, they have to be shifting them, right? Some will go on morning shift, some will go on night shift, and all of those. But in case of a bot, it will work continuously without getting tired, right? So you see, you've saved a lot of things. You've saved human resource, HR, right? You've also saved what? Money. You've saved what? You've saved money, right? Because instead of paying all these 50 people 40 million naira, or rather 60 million naira for their salary, their allowance, their resources and human resource, instead of paying all these 60 million naira, you decide to keep your 60 million naira. That means at the end of the year, you make your 100 million naira complete. Nobody is taking off your 100 million naira because a bot, for example, is a machine. All you need to do is configure the machine. You might as well just hire just one person, maybe a developer, to build your bot for you, right? But once the bot is built, you only need to maintain the bot and the developer. You save a lot of money and you save human resource. So you can see the difference between, you know, doing things in the traditional way and what is being done these days by modern technology. So we can see that technology is taking over so many things. So this is just one example out of many and millions of examples out there. We've seen how technology has evolved and revolutionized a lot of industries, right? Talking about the automobile industries, right? We've seen how technology has been able to, advance from using driving cars to self-driving cars. Now we now have self-driving cars that can drive by themselves without anybody controlling them, right? We've seen Tesla, we've seen all of those things, right? Also in the manufacturing industry, right? The manufacturing industry these days does not necessarily need a lot of people to be on site, right? We already have equipment, right, and machines that are already doing all the work for us, right? So say for example, we have maybe a company like Indomie, for example. So in Indomie, for example, you'd have maybe like an assembly line like this, right? So at this point, you are preparing the Indomie, right? At this point, you are putting the Indomie inside sachet, right? At this point, you are sealing the Indomie, right? At this point, you are putting the Indomie inside a carton. And at this point, you are throwing the Indomie inside a truck, right? So this is an assembly line. Call it an assembly line in a manufacturing industry, right? So this assembly line, what happens here, right? This is literally a machine. So the machine will pick up the Indomie, it will send the Indomie to the next line. And what happens here? The Indomie will be put into a sachet, right? What happens here? The sachet will be sealed. Once it gets sealed, it will be taken to a carton. And once you take it to a carton, you now, dump everything into a truck. So all of these processes before, we used to have human beings that used to stand, right? They are the one that will pick the Indomie. Those human beings, they are the one that will put the Indomie inside the sachet. Those human beings, they are the one that will seal the Indomie with their hands. Those human beings, they are the one that would put the Indomie inside a carton. It's still human beings that will carry the Indomie inside the carton and go and throw it inside a truck. But these days, we've seen how technology has been able to make things easier for us, right? We no longer have human beings here, right? It's just literally machine that is doing everything. So you don't even need to be there. The machine will put the Indomie for you, to put it inside a carton and to seal it, to throw it inside a truck. The only thing that needs to happen is a truck will just go and deliver it to the end users. So that's in the manufacturing industry. Several industries, we've seen how technology has been able to make things easier, right? So what was happening here? What happened here is that somebody just woke up one day and saw that, "Kai, there's a problem in this manufacturing industry. I don't like the fact that human beings are doing too much wahala trying to supervise how Indomie is being put into a carton and how Indomie is being put into a truck. How do we make things easier, right? And they came up with an idea and they solved the problem by automating the process, right? So that was the problem. The problem there was that they were taking so much of human resource, right? And they wanted to automate things, right? So the automation was the solution. And the problem basically was that they were making use of too much of human resource, right? So there are so many problems out there in the world that need solution, right? It could be problem in your community, it could be problem in your country, it could be problem in your continent, or it could also be a world problem, right? All you need to do as an individual is to identify this problem, right? You identify the problem, then you think for a solution for that particular problem. So that's the major reason why there are problems everywhere, right? There are still a lot of problems. Trust me, even though you think that the market is already saturated. Oh, Mark Zuckerberg has already done Facebook. I cannot do Facebook again. And they've done Instagram. I cannot do Instagram again. There are a lot of problems out there that you can still solve, as an individual, right? So before you solve a problem, you need to understand the problem. That was what the Indomie guy did when he was trying to understand that, oh, okay, it's as if too much individuals are suffering because of just Indomie. Let's use machine to make it work automatically, right? That was a problem understanding. So that's why you do problem understanding as a data scientist before you even start implementing anything. You need to understand, oh, what's the problem we are trying to solve? What at the end of the day, what solution are we going to get, right? So that's problem understanding, right? So moving forward, we have what we also call data collection, right? So you have a problem, right? And before you solve that problem, you need to understand that, oh, has this thing happened before, right? The question is, has it happened before? This problem, has it happened before, right? Has it happened before? Yes. What are the cases that has happened before? Right? What are the cases that happened before? So what you need to do is that, oh, before now, has people been complaining about the stress that it takes in an Indomie company? Yes, people have complained. Have people reported their complaint before? Yes, they've reported their complaint. So let me go and look for those reports, right? That's basically your data, right? So you need those data of what happened in the past or previously, right? Helps you to find a solution to your problem, right? It helps you to find a solution to your problem. So now that you have your data, right? So you need to collect data from somewhere. So the question is now, where are you collecting this data from? Where does this data, where are they being kept, right? There are different methods on how to collect data. One of the method basically is, you know, from official, websites, right? And another way to collect data is web scraping, right? And another way of collecting data is through APIs, right? Basically. So as a data scientist, right, you have so many skills that you can use. You have skills that you'll be able to collect data from official website. You have skills that you'll be able to do web scraping. You have skills that you'll be able to work with APIs, right? Basically. So usually the traditional way of collecting data is through official websites. So maybe you need data of previous individuals that have worked in an Indomie company before. What are their experiences in the Indomie company? What are their complaints? What are their reports? What are their feedbacks? Right? They will have like a document that has all of this information, right? In this document, you have all the information of people that worked in domain company before, right? So you need these documents. You need it so that you can use it to create a solution, right? So there are different organizations out there that are authorized to keep data, right? You have so many authorized websites out there that has data for you. Like for example, in Nigeria now, there's a data website where you can get data from. For example, maybe you want to get data of people that have been recorded to have had COVID-19 in the past, or health data. Basically, you can go to the Center of Disease and Control website, and you have access to data. So that's how to get data from official websites. Back in the days, how people get data is that they have to walk up to an organization, right, or a ministry. So I can remember those days when I was trying to do my project in university. I needed data of people in psychiatric hospital. So what happened that time was that there was nowhere to get people data of people in psychiatric hospital in Nigeria online. I have checked all the websites available. There's nothing like that. So the best way for me to do so is I have to go to a psychiatric hospital. Usually we call them federal neuro hospitals, right? I had to walk up to that hospital, right? And I told them that, oh, I'm an IT student, or sorry, I'm a university student, and I'm about to do my project on psychiatric patients. Please, how do I get data? I would like to have data rather of psychiatric patients from so year to so year. And they said, okay, no problem. You can go to our registrar and they will provide you with the data. So that's how people get data before. You have to go to maybe a ministry or secretariat, something like that, you get data. But one of the disadvantages of getting data from all these places is that you cannot get data in soft copy. They'll only give you those data in like in paper. And you need those data in soft copy so that you'll be able to do whatever you want to do with that data. So the wahala there was that data that you went to collect, you now start converting all of them to soft copy, which is very stressful, right? I had to sit down sometimes and copy more than 1,000 data and started copying all of them to an Excel sheet, which is wahala to me, right? And I wouldn't want to do that again. So that's the traditional way of collecting data. But these days is now they are making it a lot easier. There are some ministries, I don't know, it depends on the ministry, but I can remember of one ministry like that that has data on their site. So you can go there, you download it in your Excel or CSV file, right, and use the data. So the third way of using data, of collecting data rather, is web scraping, right? Sometimes you don't want to do all this while of working to an organization. You don't want to do while of going to a site to go and download data. You just want to write a Python script, right? You just want to write a Python script that inside that Python script, you can just say, oh, go to so website for me and help me fetch some information for me. So that's what we call web scraping, right? You have a website. For example, maybe this is a website, right? There are several information on the website. This website can be anything. It can be Wikipedia, it can be Facebook, it can be Twitter, it can be whatever, right? And you want information inside that website. You can just write some few lines of code, right? Write some few lines of code. And those lines of code will help you go to the website and you go to the website and help you bring back data, right, from the website. So that's what we call web scraping. Yeah, scraping the web. Just like most of us used to scrape the pots after cooking a lovely jollof rice. I don't know if we still do it, but anyways. So that's how web scraping works, right? You write some line of code that will go to a website and collect the data that you want from that website and bring it back to you for you to make use of, right? So that's the third way of collecting data. So what is the fourth way of collecting data? It's called APIs, right? So let me explain how APIs work. So you have a kitchen. Okay, let's put question mark here. Then this is you, right? This is you. I'm not so good at drawing, but manage this one. So yeah, sometimes, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you go to a restaurant, right? And inside that restaurant that you went to, you sat down in the restaurant, maybe this is a chair, you just sat down in the restaurant, right? And inside this restaurant, you want to eat, you are very hungry, right? Even though you are not hungry, you just want to eat. But what happens? Is it that you stand up? Mind you, a restaurant is not mama put. Mama put, you can go to the counter and go and stand there, start shouting, give me amala 4 wrap, give me Canadian 3 wrap. This a proper restaurant. You sit down, right? You don't even know where the chef is or where the cook is staying or where the kitchen is, right? You don't even know where the kitchen is. So how do you even know? How do you place your order, right? The next thing you hear people do is that they will start shouting, waiter, 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 right? Start shouting, waiter, waiter, right? So your waiter comes and your waiter will help you to, what's it called? To take your order. So this waiter, for example, right, is here. This is your waiter. So the waiter will come to you and say, okay, let me see, please, can I take your order? You say, oh, I want 10 wraps of amala. Don't know if you can finish it, sharp, but you can take 10 wraps of amala. And then you can also say, oh, what else do you want? Oh, I want water. Collect one water, right? And what does the waiter do? The waiter will not take your order and go back to the kitchen, right? Where your chef is and everything. You tell them that, oh, somebody ordered for, oops, the person will tell you that, oh, somebody ordered for 10 wraps of amala and one water. So the chef will prepare the food, right? Maybe this is the food. And the chef will give the waiter back the food. The waiter also bring the food back to you. You have your food now, you can now eat, right? So this basically what I just explained is how an API works, right? An API is just an errand person that helps you go to somewhere, collect information for you, and bring it back for you, right? So let me explain how it works. Basically, let's clean all of this. You now know that, oh, in a restaurant you have a waiter that helps you do stuff, right? But in the real operation of APIs, what happens? This is what happens. Let me explain to you what happens. So you have a website, maybe you have Twitter, Instagram, right? Facebook. You have these three this thing. You have these three websites, for example. You know, we have so many information on Twitter, we also have information on Instagram, we have information on Facebook. Maybe, for example, in the website or the solution you are trying to create, you need data of people's tweets, for example, on Twitter, or you need examples of what is trending on Twitter and stuff like that. Those are data, and those data are only on Twitter. But Twitter will not be able to give you access to the data directly like that. You cannot just go to Twitter and start scraping like that, right? Because they might not allow you. They are making use of people's data, right? But what is the most convenient way that Twitter has provided for people to collect data? They provided what? An API in the middle like this. They provided an API. Remember your waiter that helps you go to the kitchen, right? So they provided an API and they said, oh, we have an API. Use this API to get data. And this is you here. So what you do basically is just write your code, right? And this code will be calling your API. This is the API. When the code calls your API now goes to Twitter and collects the data for you. This is the data now inside the container, and it brings the data for you, right? And you're happy and use your data. So remember, just like I orchestrated with the restaurant, this Python script is you, right? This API is the waiter. You are sending the waiter an errand. This Twitter is the kitchen where they prepare the food for you. So inside Twitter, you have your information, you know. Here you have API, here you have your Python code. You write your Python code, you send to an API, an API sends it to Twitter. Twitter receives it, Twitter gets the information for you, take it back to your API. Your API takes the information back to you. I don't know if you understand perfectly what that means now. Do you understand the MVC? All right. So those are how APIs work basically. So we now understand the three ways that we collect data. We collect data using traditionally from you walk up to an organization, you have official websites, you have web scraping, you also have APIs, right? So what's next in the data science lifecycle? We have other things in the data science lifecycle, right? That are worthy of note. So one of them is the other next one is after collecting your data, what happens, right? You need to do what we call
No, okay. Can you guys hear me now? Alright. So moving forward, I was talking about the next step on the data science lifecycle. One of the next step basically is what we call data exploration, right? So the data exploration basically is where we understand the data, right? So we collected some set of data, but we still don't know what to do with the data yet, yeah, right? But before we do anything with the data, we need to explore it. We need to know what is even inside the data. Are there informations that we don't need in the data? Are there outliers that we need to remove from the data? Is the data containing missing values or missing columns or missing rows? You know, how do we handle all of this kind of data, right? So now the question is, we need to explore the data so that we'll be able to know, oh, what is inside this data, and better understand what the data entails. So as a data scientist, you would also be having some of these skills in order for you to be able to explore data, right? One of the tools and the skills that you'll be learning in order to handle data is called pandas, right? We also have NumPy and SciPy, right? All of these three tools that I mentioned enables you to be able to not just explore data, but you'll be also able to manipulate data using these tools, right? So we understand the problem at hand. We also have collected data that is relevant to this problem. Then after collecting the data that is relevant to this problem, we then explore the data, right? After exploring the data means that we tend to understand the data, so that we can prepare it better for the next step, right? So what is the next step here? The next step basically is for us to perform analysis on the data, right? In other words, we usually call it exploratory data analysis, right? We need to do further analysis or further exploration to this data so that we can better understand the data and derive insights from the data. How do we do so, right? So we have our data, right? We do so by performing some statistical techniques, right, on the data, right? There are different tools in Panda that would enable you to be able to perform exploratory data analysis, right? Doing this exploratory data analysis would make you understand the data more, not just make you understand the data more, but enable you to derive insight from the data and identify patterns, right? So, for example, we now have um, data of people that had worked in an Indomie company. So, after performing different statistical techniques on the data, we can then conclude or we can then derive that, oh, so number of people in the Indomie companies have complained about, you know, stress, right? Or so many people due to stress in the Indomie company had fallen sick before, right? So many people, so amount of people in the Indomie industry have, resulted to injuries while working on machines and all of those, right? These are the different insights that you can derive from, just performing statistical techniques onto the data that you've explored already, right? So that's the major part where you tend to do analysis of the data, you know, so that you can derive more insights from the data. So after doing your data analysis or after performing statistical techniques on the data, you can then Apologies. Can anybody hear me now? All right. Sorry about that. I don't know where you guys lost me, but I was trying to explain something around data visualization. Did you guys get me up to that point? All right. So basically, while I was explaining what exploration is, it's just the ability for us to be able to better understand our data. So we have different tools that are available for you to be able to, yeah, for you to be able to explore your data perfectly, right? So as a data scientist, you have pandas, you have numpy, you also have sci-fi that enables you to be able to explore your data properly. So during the course of your exploration, it enables you to, you know, understand what different features that are available in your data, what columns are available, and stuff like that. So a lot of exploration, you can do a lot of exploration just to better or become comfortable and convenient with using your data. You know, you would want to know what your data entails, right, before you even go further to doing analysis on your data. We also have, on the next step, we have data analysis, right? In other words, we call them exploratory data analysis, EDA, right? So why do we need to perform analysis on our data, right? So the goal of all of these data collection, problem understanding, and all of those is for us to be able to analyze the data and derive insights from the data, right? So deriving insights from a data actually enables us, to identify patterns amongst this data, right? A data could be cumbersome, a data could be a whole lot, right? But we want to derive meaning from the data. We want to better make this data understandable to people. So on this particular data, we oftentimes perform what we call statistical techniques on this data, right? There are different statistical techniques out there that enables us to derive insights from a data. So the process of you applying or performing statistical techniques on data to derive insights is what we call exploratory data analysis. So you are performing data analysis on it, right? So say for example, just like we made mention of the Indomie company data, right? So at the end of your data analysis, you'd want to be revealing answers like, oh, we have X amount of people that worked with the Indomie company previously, and this X amount of people have recorded that they had suffered from one illness or the other due to stress in that company. You'd also want to answer questions like, so amount of people in the Indomie companies have actually complained, of how machines are malfunctioning and stuff like that. You can also see percentage of people that often, resign from Indomie companies over the years, and so many insights, right? All of these insights will enable you to understand, oh,